Hello, freaks, geeks, scrufftards, and you know, weird freaks and degenerates found online. Welcome to the Warzone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. And in this video, we will be taking a look at just how little Russia has achieved along the border between Kursk and Sumy Oblast. Ukraine seems to be pushing back in the Dvorichna area, and down at Pokrovsk, we are seeing Russian advances, but they are advancing at a massive cost. And it does appear as, when you put everything together, it seems as if Syrskys has planned a number of massive attritional battles with the sole purpose of ensuring complete carnage among Russian forces. So let's take a look at it. Okay, so Andrew Perpetuous map, and looking at Kursk and Belgorod, and as we can see, this is from the 5th, so haven't seen an update yet for the 6th, but as you can see, looks pretty much the same. Ukraine is bombing within Guevo, indicating that Russia is pushing in. You can see here that they hold the outskirts, but Russians are obviously in Guevo with Ukrainian airstrikes in the town. Not much is happening. We know Russia is trying to push down this way. We know Ukraine is offering a lot of resistance along this river here, the Lochnia River, and not much has happened over here as well. We know Russian forces were attacked by Ukrainian drones here. Now, a day or two ago, they were attacked over here. So Russia is trying to push into this valley to reach the main valley up here and Oleshnia. But as you can see, I mean, this is an indication that Ukraine, they knew that we would reach this point, and I've talked about this to absurdity, how Ukraine knew that they would fall back to the Lochnia River and the Posel River. Eventually, Russia would cross in on the flanks to try and cut the supplies leading into Sudzha. So these areas here are quite clearly heavily fortified and well defended. Ukraine is holding on, and Russia is struggling, pushing in. Same thing here along the border from Kursk into Sumy. All of these valleys here, where you have these villages, where you have wooded areas and what have you, and high ground in between. They have been fortified, ranges are pre-sighted. The Ukrainians have planned kill boxes and kill zones all over the place. So when Russia is pushing in, they are met with stiff resistance and a lot of firepower. Because Ukraine knew that they could not hold on to territory in Kursk indefinitely. They knew that sometime during 2025 they would be pushed out. And I just hit my mic there. And because I'm waving my hand around, and you can clearly see that, right? And they knew they would be pushed out, and that the fight would eventually end up taking place in Sumy. So this part here is more than likely heavily fortified, and that's why I've been talking about that the second stage of the Kursk operation is the fight in Sumy, where the Russians follow the Ukrainians into these prepared kill zones that they have built up for 8 months while they were holding territory in Kursk. And now Russia is following the Ukrainians into these prepared kill zones and kill boxes, where the Russians are more than likely being ripped apart on a daily basis up here in Sumy Oblast, and as they're trying to secure Kursk. And on top of it, Ukraine probably had it planned from the beginning as well. When we leave Kursk, we strike into Belgorod to force the Russians to allocate manpower and resources down here, so that they can't focus all efforts into moving into Sumy Oblast. Minefields and what do you call it? Dragon teeth, the tank obstacles, are located all across the border here, and the Ukrainians, they must have scouted these areas well in advance before launching operations towards Demidovka and Popovka. So all of this is actually going according to plan. Russians are struggling immensely in gaining territory because the Ukrainians, they knew that this point would eventually occur, where they left Kursk and then would have to fight in these prepared defensive areas right here on the border. So I have no doubts that the Russians are well and truly struggling, trying to push into Basivka, trying to push into Guevo, and as we're seeing, they're struggling to push into Demidovka and Popovka as well. And that's Kursk and Belgorod. We're going to move down here to Kupiansk and the Dvorichna operational area, where Russia has tried to push in north of Kupiansk, crossing the Oskil River to come down from and attack them from the north. Ukraine has had some successes here, pushing the Russians back. And take a look at this. If we go back a couple of days, you can see here how Russia moved in this way, and it was then corrected to down here. Maybe it was two separate pushes, I don't know. But as we can see, the Russians were in Kindrashivka, Andrei Perpetua and Mayakovsk 73. Both of those mappers indicated that Russia was in Kindrashivka. This is the 1st of April. Take a look what happens as we move forward. Boom. Russians are pushed back around Kindrashivka after having secured the ground out to, or contesting ground out to the highway here or country road. And this is on the 4th. And then on the 5th, we can see here, that's a Ukrainian abandoned, that Russians are either forced back or they are, Andrew is correcting where the Russians actually are. But I think it's interesting that the mappers indicated that the Russians were here in Kindrashivka, and then a couple of days later we see that they're being pushed back into these forested areas where they have cover. So Ukraine, maybe the mappers are just adjusting to the reality, or Ukraine is actually pushing Russia back out of Kindrashivka, and they are pushing the Russians back into this wooded area here. Whatever the case, up here around Dvorichna is where Ukraine has had success in pushing the Russians back. And it would not surprise me if the Russians are trying to push out this way and Ukraine is countering and forcing them to fall back along these windbreaks here that we're seeing. And moving down to Pokrovsk, lots of things are happening. We can see down here Russia is pushing and advancing ever so slightly every other day. At the same time, up here around Vovkova, Russia is conducting counter-assaults into Shevchenko, crucially so because we have seen for a couple of weeks, or a week or two maybe, that Ukraine has been pushing into this area here at Shevchenko. They've moved into Solona, and we've talked about this dam, how vital it is for Ukraine to reach that dam in order to surround the Russians here at Vovkova and cut them off from supplies. Now we can see, as expected, Russia is pushing back at Shevchenko. They are pushing back through Solona. We can see Ukrainian drone strikes here. Because they need to hold Solona and Shevchenko to secure this dam, and this is where they can bring supplies over this lake and the river in the valley leading down to the Solona River that flows here. So nothing strange that Russia is throwing manpower at Shevchenko and Solona, because they need to do that in order to secure this dam. Fully expected. At the same time, we can see how Ukraine keeps pushing in and around Kotlina, isolating the Russians further up here in the factory or the mining facility, and pushing in ever so slightly in this area and forcing the Russians back. Interestingly, we have in this area the 155th Mechanized. I like to point this out, the French trained and equipped Ukrainian unit. they were responsible for pushing into Kotlina, and they seem to be now responsible for pushing into Shevchenko as well. So this unit that unfortunately initially was made famous because it suffered a lot of desertions. They have since been placed on the front line here at Pokrovsk, and they have held the line, denied Russia's chance to push on, and they have begun reclaiming territory here around Vovkova at Kotlina and Shevchenko ever since. They have proven their worth, no doubt, since they have held the line, and they have even forced the Russians back, as you can see, quite a lot in the area here surrounding Vovkova at Pokrovsk. We're gonna stay in this area because I was thinking about making a video last night or Saturday night. Yeah, last night. Getting messed up here with the dates since we just crossed midnight over here. Because Russia tried something really, really incredible. Was it here at Andriivka or up here at Bodanivka? Let's go back a couple of days here. Here we go. This here out of Slovianka. This, the charge of the Light Brigade. Russian cars, Party Loaf, car destroyed, Lada destroyed, Loaf destroyed, armor fighting, I mean pickup Lada destroyed. This is an assault made with a dozen or 2 dozen civilian cars, Ladas and pickups, pushed out of Slovianka, and as you can see, the end result is what we can expect: complete destruction. Right, you aim drones and artillery at ordinary civilian vehicles, and this is what happens. Let's see if we can, I mean, you can see this is what they tried to assault with. You can see here, ordinary cars. I mean, Jesus Christ, right? Old Volkswagen from the 70s, minivans. It's a complete disaster. I don't know how, but judging by all the vehicles, you could easily get 100 or 200 Russians into these vehicles combined, and they were completely wiped out, as you can see here on the 2nd of April. I don't know what the Russians were thinking when they launched this assault. That said, though, if we jump ahead here, all of a sudden we saw an assault with armored vehicles instead. BMP motorcycle, DAF Leyland destroyed, BMP destroyed, and they took ground or contested ground. This is not read yet according to Andrew Perpetua, but you can see the Ukrainian response to this assault, and the Russian infantry dismounts from stopped column. Take a look. So they were out on this road here, got hit by drones and artillery. Look at all of the Russian troops now dismounting out in the open when all of the Ukrainian shelling begins. So yeah, but I mean, I don't know what to tell you. The Russians, they keep pushing, and they run into these kill zones, these kill boxes, and get hammered by the Ukrainians. Now, we see how the Russians, they're gaining bits and pieces all over the place, right? They keep advancing, but I mean, truth be told, zoom out and let's remove all of this, right? I mean, this is on the that's reset. That was a bit annoying. Let's jump on over to Deep State instead then. Right, so Deep State. This is the front line at Pokrovsk on the 6th, so updated. Now let's move back. I'm moving back now day by day here. Do you see how much that front line is moving? Do you see how little the map actually changes if we go back day by day? And if we zoom out, this is Ukraine. This is Ukraine in its entirety. So let's move forward here from the 15th of March. You barely see the front line moving, right? There's barely anything happening. And thousands of Russians are dying trying to achieve minuscule advances. Minuscule. So this is not a Ukrainian front line that is collapsing, not by a long shot. It took Russia a year, more than a year, to move from Avdiivka to Pokrovsk. Just incredible. The Russian advance is moving at a snail's pace. This is not blitzkrieg, this is Schneckenkrieg, snail war. And the Ukrainian defenses are holding. They are slowly falling back, fighting a war of attrition, and conduct controlled withdrawals, controlled fighting retreats, because they are facing overwhelming amounts of enemies, overwhelming amounts of firepower and everything. So it's difficult to hold a line without being overwhelmed. So what they are doing is they are holding for as long as possible and then slowly fall back to new defensive positions. And as you can see, it's working. You barely saw the map move or the front line move, and that is because Ukrainians, they know what they're doing. They are fighting a war of attrition. They're doing it very effectively. They have all of these prepared kill zones and kill boxes, and the Russians are suffering, losing hundreds of troops in each assault, and more than 1,000 troops die every day trying to push through these very, very effective Ukrainian defensive lines. And I just realized that I had the wrong setting for the microphone, so everything was recorded with very low volume. So sorry for that. My bad, but I just I was just too tired to redo the entire video, so it is what it is. So sorry for that mistake. But anyways, yeah, I think we're seeing what Syrskys wants to do here. He wants to lure the Russians into various kill zones and kill boxes and just rip them apart on the battlefield, essentially. A war of attrition, and it does appear as if it's working. When Ukraine is giving ground, it's 100 meters here and there, and when you zoom out and take a look at the front lines, it hardly moves. It hardly moves. Russia needs well over a year to be able to push through an area the size of Luxembourg. A modern army should be able to conquer that area in a couple of days, a week maybe. But we're seeing that Ukraine, they're holding firm, and they are conducting a very effective war of attrition against the Russians. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that Syrskys' plan on how to win this war, it's with nothing short of carnage. That's his plan. He's going to defeat the Russians by inflicting carnage on the Russian forces. Anyway, that's going to have to be it. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. As always, go på marsch, Ukraine, and give them hell.